That's easy. I get my mentality from my mom and dad. My dad was a straight boss, and my mom wasn't slacking on being a boss either. They worked extremely hard to give me everything I needed, as well as my sister. So I owe all my mentality to putting things out there and doing things right to them. Mentors, I've had plenty of mentors. Joey Bullock, Bill Dooley, Rich Mallow, Dirk Cutter, Ron Rivera, Ron Thompson, Kevin Yoxel, Al Johnson, Jeff Mad Dog Madden, Rob Oviatt, Mike Gentry, of course. So I live with a team of mentors, but the mentality comes from home. First off, Brian and I are friends, and that will never change. I've seen that guy when he was a strength coach, and I've seen him as a 4-time world champ, and I've always said I was humbled when he asked me to be a part of the team. I would say right now, Shaw Classic, he is doing the programming, and it's funny because I just did this grease board notes for him, and I'm just there to give advice, recommendations, and considerations. But to be honest with you, the guy knows everything he needs to know. The programming is strong. I can obviously I hope to say I got a little bit of influence in the way he put together this plan, but no one knows better than Brian. That's why I was excited when he gave me a chance to be a part of the team. So Brian is controlling the programming. I would say when he needs me, I am a sounding board for advice, considerations, and recommendations for the Shaw Classic, but I will be in attendance. The first thing I'm going to tell you is the assistant AD for sports performance title. If you're talking specifically that you're going to remain as the head strength and conditioning coach, this is the biggest facade out there in college athletics. Most of the time, these titles, what are you really assistant ADing? So for me, I have a hard time with this if you are not going to accept additional roles to being a head strength coach, and that is extremely hard. So my question would be, if I'm the AD and you're proposing this, what other duties are you willing to do? What other duties are you willing to handle? And how are you going to do that on top of being the strength coach? Now, are you going to step away and oversee sports performance, athletic training, equipment room, nutrition, etc.? That's a different discussion. So you got to be aware of what are you really asking for before you even decide on what this proposal will look like. Well, congrats on doing your first official powerlifting meet. This is kind of a loaded question since I don't know much about you. The biggest thing is, how many weeks are you looking to prepare? 8, 10, or 12? How you're going to build out your cycles is important. You want to do similar to a linear progression with deload weeks and make sure that you're around 90-95% 2 weeks out of the meet. Establish a taper week. And then I always say, for your first meet, open with something that you know you can triple in the gym. Go to something near max, 95-96%. And if you're feeling good, shoot for a new record at a meet. Gym lifts don't matter. The only lifts that matter are what you do in competition. So be strong and do not miss reps in the big 3 lifts during training. As Ed Cohn says, always leave a couple of reps in the tank and save it for meet day. You only have so many max effort lifts. Well, they can be doing a bunch of variations of tricep push down work. Some overhead work, could be some face pulls. Could be some pull down work with a rope, because you can extend the arms out and have the arms fade. But generally, if I see rope, that type of rope and that attachment there, I'm thinking face pull and tricep work. Great question. And yes, the second edition will actually get started this summer. I've sent out a bunch of my presentations to a transcriber. I have over 500 pages of transcription. I'm sending another 4 presentations out, and we will build the second edition of the Coach's Strength Training Playbook from these transcriptions. I'll plug in the charts, and then I'll add an additional workbook, because then we will start our mentorship and certification courses from this text. And I know who this is, and I still have not completed the Prilipin project that I want to make a mini course. It is probably 3/4 of the way done. I want to knock that out, because that's going to be a chapter in the book. And when I do, I promised you I would send it to you. So when that gets completed, you'll be one of the first ones to review that course. So I've actually have a YouTube page. I actually have two, but this is my AKA coaching and professional one. And I've done a poor job of keeping up on this, and I need to ramp it up. So there is a page established. A lot of people ask me this same question, as well as starting my own podcast. So now that more people want this type of information, I guess it's time for me to do more instructional stuff on YouTube. And I'm still talking with a bunch of people on best practices to get a podcast up and running. Since my colleagues have told me, I've done some research, that I've been on well over 100 podcasts as a guest. So these things should be coming sometime in the future. Known Chad for a long time. I actually competed in one of his events in 2009. Got to meet Trey with joining Brian's team. Great guy, super strong. He's going to win one here shortly. What I would say is I've talked to Chad a lot about training. I don't butt into people's who are already coaching other athletes. But if they do need my advice, I have no issues just chopping it up and spitting different information and trading strategies and or opinions. I earned a bachelor's degree from Wake Forest in exercise and sports science. So that makes me a sports scientist. And then I did my graduate work at Boise State. I actually got a master's of arts in education with an emphasis in curriculum and instruction. And my content area was exercise science. I switched from MS in exercise science to the MA because the classes I was taking are identical to what I did as an undergrad. And I felt like with program design and curriculum and possibly teaching in the future, that the curriculum and instruction was much more advantageous to me in my career, and it definitely served a huge purpose. So I'm very happy I went that route. Not sure the year or the date, but I am going to do at least one more deadlift comp to try to pull over 500 before I turn 60. I got to get this shoulder right. I got to get this knee right, but I'm going to make one more run at a deadlift before I hang it up. Great question. And yes, the second edition will actually get started this summer. I've sent out a bunch of my presentations to a transcriber. I have over 500 pages of transcription. I'm sending another 4 presentations out, and we will build the second edition of the Coach's Strength Training Playbook from these transcriptions. I'll plug in the charts, and then I'll add an additional workbook, because then we will start our mentorship and certification courses from this text. And I know who this is, and I still have not completed the Prilipin project that I want to make a mini course. It is probably 3/4 of the way done. I want to knock that out because that's going to be a chapter in the book. And when I do, I promised you I would send it to you. So when that gets completed, you'll be one of the first ones to review that course.